We've talked about priorities. We've talked about processes. Now it is time to talk about goals. And that means to me effective goals. How do we have effective goals? Which in turn means to me short-term effective goals. This video is part 3 in my series, Keys to Prolific Creation, based on a video I did not too long ago called 8 Keys to Being a Prolific Creator, or How to Be Highly Productive as a Creative Individual. Some of these things will apply not just to writers and artists, but to business people as well. So hopefully there's some good information. I'm doing a video on each one of those points, a little bit more detail, a little bit more specifics, and less wishy-washy kind of language. So goals are pretty important. Most people think of goals as being the most important thing because that is the goal. But I mentioned in the first video that the process is the most important thing. Having goals doesn't do anything unless you establish a process that's going to lead you toward those goals. And the process will continue even after you accomplish a goal, because the key to being prolific is repeating that creative cycle. But goals are very important. You don't want to have no goals, because if you have no goal, that means you don't know what your process is doing or why you're doing it. So you've got to have some kind of goal. And you want your goals to be effective sort of waypoints in your journey. If you don't have a goal that you have to reach every so often, you can't have a point where you see whether you succeeded or failed and can look at your process, see what went wrong or what worked, and then revise and improve that process. Where I am at as a creative individual is the product of 20 years of doing this, and failing multiple times and sucking at what I was doing for long enough to figure out eventually how to do it correctly. So it's important to have those goals so that you can have a check-in point to see how your process is doing, knowing that your process is then going to deliver that goal and all the goals that follow it. I feel that short-term goals are an important part of that, because if you have too long-term a goal, you're waiting too long to see if the process works. So if your goal is like, I'm going to be a best-selling author, and that's your goal. Oh, great, but at what point will you see if what you're doing is actually bringing you closer or further away from this sort of amorphous long-term goal? Or if you have a goal, I want to own a home, and 5 years later you still don't own a home, and you're like, I don't know, I had this goal, own a home. It's like you didn't have anything to check in on your process along the way, and that's to me means short-term goals. Making goals effective is probably the thing that I think most people miss out on when they are sort of constructing their goals. They tend to not really think about goals in the right way for them to be effective sort of waypoints and effective towards driving them and controlling their process in the right ways. So one of the things that I'd like to sort of talk to you about, this is a rather popular thing in education, but I think it's also popular in business as well. This is having goals that are, quote, SMART goals, and it's a little acronym. SMART usually stands for specific, measurable, achievable, R for relevant in this infographic, and T for timed or time bound, meaning it's occurring within a limited time set. That's that short-term goal. R can also mean results-based, and I actually prefer results-based, though relevancy should also be considered to what you're doing. You don't want to set a short-term goal that doesn't have anything to do with your long-term goal. It's like, I have a short-term goal of lose 10 pounds, and it's like, well, what's your long-term goal? Well, be a best-selling author. It's like, okay, those aren't relevant. But results-based, I think, is more important, because results-based is what is going to determine that pass-fail of the goal. You want to focus on the results when you're looking at the goal, and that is in turn going to inform the process. You do not want a goal that is going to be the process itself. The process itself should not be the goal. That should be what is helping you achieve your goals. So let's go through each of these, because these are all important things. The first one is specific. And actually, let's use weight loss as an example, because that's a really easy one to see. So specific, if you say, I want to lose some weight, that's not specific. How much weight? Because if it's not specific, it may be too easy to achieve, and you may think you're achieving something that you're not. It's like, I'm going to lose weight. And you weigh yourself on Monday, you weigh yourself the next Monday, you've lost half a pound. You're like, great, I'm a successful weight loser. Versus setting a specific goal, like I need to lose 20 pounds. I'm going to get to this weight, and that's your specific goal. The other one is measurable. You always want to have a goal that you can measure whether it passes or fails. You don't want to have a goal that's like, my goal, what's your goal? My goal is to be good at art. How is that measurable? You should have a goal that's like, I'm going to complete this many projects within this amount of time. That's the measurable part. With the weight loss, it's easy to measure, right? You get on a scale and you measure yourself. You wouldn't say, well, like, I want to feel lighter. It's like, okay, I want to feel like, I want to get in shape. Well, how is that measured? How are you going to measure get in shape? What does that mean to you? So you have to think about the measurable thing. I'm going to lose 20 pounds. That's specific and measurable. The third one, the A, achievable. This is one that a lot of people mess up on. They set a goal that they don't have a chance of achieving because it's beyond their scope or they haven't developed the skills yet to achieve it. So if you're like, I have a goal of I'm going to write a 4-movement symphony. It's like, well, how many pieces have you composed? Well, I've never composed a piece before. It's like, well, that's great, but that may not be achievable for you right now. It's better to set a smaller goal, like I'm going to write 1 piece in sonata allegro form, which would be a much more achievable for a composition student than write a symphony. Or even better, if you said it's like, I'm going to write the Great American Symphony. It's like, that may not be achievable or measurable in a good way. The third one, the R. This infographic here says relevant, but other ones will say results-based. To me, results-based is sort of what I think of. When you have your goals set out, you want to see whether they are easy to see, they pass, or they fail. You don't want your goal to be, I'm going to go to the gym every day. Going to the gym every day is a process for losing the actual goal, 20 pounds, right? So that's what you actually want. You want it to be results-based, so that you get to a certain point and you say, did the goal get achieved or did it not get achieved? I lost 19 pounds. I haven't achieved my goal yet. I need to keep working on it. Okay. The last one, timed or time-bound. I like to say time-bound. Means that you're going to be achieving that goal at a certain point in time. So if I were going to set a very good small-term goal up for like weight loss, it'd be, I'm going to lose 2 pounds in the next 7 days. So I'm going to lose 2 pounds in a week. So that's specific, measurable, achievable. Somebody can lose 2 pounds in a week. That's within like kind of healthy weight loss limits. It's results based. You either lost the 2 pounds or you didn't lose the 2 pounds, and it's time bound. You have a week worth of time, so that fulfills all the requirements. That'd be a great one. Let's apply that sort of line of thinking to writing. So a better goal to set for yourself, rather than saying, I'm going to write a novel. All right, that's a good long-term goal. But if you want to have your process be effective, you need to have these short-term check-ins. So what you need to say is, I'm going to write 1,000 words today. So it's specific, 1,000 words, 1,000 words of new material, right? I'm going to write 1,000 words of new material. It's specific. It's measurable, 1,000 words. It's achievable. You can write 1,000 words in a day. At least I can. It's results-based. You either wrote 1,000 words or you didn't. It's relevant as well, that keyword R. It's relevant to the bigger goal out there. Write a novel. It's getting you closer to your big goal. And then it's time-bound. I'm going to write it today. A bad one for writing would be, I'm going to write 10,000 words today, because that may be missing that achievable part. And achievable means achievable by you, not achievable by me or by somebody else. I have enough experience. I have written 10,000 words in a day, and I could do it again if I need to. In fact, I've done 10,000 words in a day a bunch of times. But I have a lot of experience writing a lot of words and being able to sit down at a computer for a long time and write words. That may not be achievable for you, so you have to pick a number that you can achieve. And the thing is, if you do a one-day goal, I'm going to write 1,000 words today, and you sit down with the time you have allotted to write, and you write, and you get to 800 words. So you didn't meet your goal. That achievable part may not be correct. You may have to say, you know what, I'm going to write 800 words today. And then you have a process. You do 800 words. And then if you find, I'm getting to 800 words faster now. Let's up the ante. Let's reevaluate what's achievable, and let's set the bar a little higher. I'm going to do 1,500 words in a day. And then you go on like that, and you can see every day what you did. Or you could do it in like a weekly thing. I'm going to write 5,000 words this week. And then you could see at the end of the week, did I get 5,000 words? Did I not? If I didn't get 5,000 words, what was the reason? Is it because my process wasn't working, or is it because I wasn't working on the process? So in other words, is my process broken? Am I not doing this correctly? Am I not focusing right? Am I not planning? Do I need to do a pre-write before I write? Like, what about my little process needs to change? Or it's like, well, I didn't get 5,000 words this week, but my dad was in the hospital for 2 days. Okay, well, there's a reason that's not your process. There's a reason that's your priorities, and that's okay. You don't have to say, oh, well, you didn't meet that goal. That's okay. You have the next week to meet the goal. And that's the other thing about short-term goals, is that they're not these big life-changing things. If your goal is like, I have a goal to, own a home. And if you fail at owning a home, it's like it might be this big problem where it's like, I'm going to write a book, and you don't finish the book. You're like, I didn't achieve my goals. Whereas if you look at it on a daily basis, it's really easy to see, oh, here's where I failed. Here's where I succeeded. Here's what I did right. Here's what I did wrong. And you can continue to get better and get those things done. And I think it's important to have sort of a hierarchy of goals, whatever you may be doing. There's like a big goal up top, write the book. And then you have things below that. So if you're saying, I want to put out a book, there's 4 phases to writing a book. And each of those has like a goal at the end of it. There's the planning phase, the creation or writing phase, there's the editing or revision phase, and then there's the publishing phase. So the first phase, planning. I'm going to set a goal, like I'm going to plan out an entire plot. I'm going to have an A, B, and C story. If you're doing screenplay stuff, you'd probably think like A, B, C story kind of stuff. And I'm going to do it in this week. That's what I'm going to do this week. So on Sunday, I'm going to be done plotting out the book. Then I'm going to begin writing the book, and then you set goals. Like I'm going to write chapter 1 this week, chapter 2 this week. I'm going to write 1,000 words a day, and then you have the whole process planned out. You finish, you write the end on the manuscript. Now begins the editing phase. And you decide, I'm going to revise this many words. I'm going to change this. I'm going to create a checklist today, and then you can go through the editing phase. And then finally you get to the publication phase, which has a bunch of little sub goals. If you're going to do traditional publication, you got to contact an agent. You got to maybe hire an editor. You need to do all these other things. If you're doing, self-publishing, there's a different set of goals there. So each of those contains a bunch of little sub goals that you can achieve within a short amount of time, and can keep you focused on what you're doing. So my goal this week would be to write 5,000 words. You could say my goal this week is to get my manuscript uploaded into all the sites that I want to sell it at, and then get my pre-orders arranged for this day. That'd be in the publication phase, and you could have a goal that would do that. And so these little one-day goals, they really, really, really are effective, and they're very effective in helping you determine how your process on a day-to-day level is working, and that overarching process, the cycle. See how the cycle is working out for you, and where there might be a short circuit that you can sort of figure out and fix for the next go around. That to me is what makes an effective goal. I know like SMART goals, if you're an educator, that might be almost cheesy. I know a lot of educators that hate it, but the important thing is that you are taking what's good about that and actually applying it. And this is the stuff that I do every day when I create a goal. I have a process, and I'm developing a better process continually of, when I'm going to put something out, when I'm going to work on a video, what my goal is for that day, for any given thing, and wherever I happen to be in my cycle. And that's really how I do it. I break everything down into these little steps, and each little step is a goal. And each time you're just sort of checking off the goal, and it also gives you kind of a sense of gratification. It's like, yes, I met my goal today. I met my 2,000 words today. For instance, I'll just tell you with my last book, talk about specifics. Water of Awakening, which I put out over the summer. I decided, I think at the beginning of May, me and my good friend Matt, we were both trying to finish up books, and this was the book I was like, I'm going to write this book. And most of this book, I was like 30,000 words in. And so I was like, okay, I want to finish this book by the end of the school year. We're both teachers. So last month of the school year, I'm going to finish this book. And so I figured out, okay, it's going to be about a 100,000 word book. Ended up being longer than that. That's okay. There was a little more story there than I had originally planned. I ended up overwriting just a slight bit, but that's okay. So I'm like, okay, I'm looking at like 70,000 words. I broke it down. It's like I have 30 days to write 70,000 words. That means I got to be writing a minimum of 2,000 words a day, and then I'll finish on like June, the last day of school. So I figured out if I get 2,000 words a day every single day, I will finish this manuscript by the end of school. And that's what I did. So I figured out my goal. My goal was I'm going to finish it by this date. And I think the date was like June 12th. What do I have to do that? Well, I got to write 2,000 words a day. Boom. There's a mini goal every single day. And if there was a day where I didn't hit the goal, I evaluated why I didn't hit it. There were some days I didn't hit it because we were doing concerts and I was I was working for 16, 17 hours a day for a couple of days. And then I'd go and I'd say, okay, well, how can I make up that failure later on? So that I didn't just average 2,000 words, I averaged a lot more than that. And I finished like 2 weeks early. And maybe not 2 weeks, but definitely at least a week early, which was great. And all I did was just kind of hit all of those little goals. I knew, okay, I'm going to finish this chapter this day. I'm going to finish this chapter this day. I had plotted and planned this book out already, so all I did was have to go down the list. I didn't have to spend any time trying to think about what happens next. I was just rattling off the words because I'd achieved my previous part of the cycle. I'd already done that. So this was a really, really good example. And that also was part of what I call the boot camp mentality, which is you can do anything for a limited amount of time, which is another good thing about the time-bound idea of goals. So hopefully that has been helpful to you to show a little bit about how that process can be micromanaged into little goals. Smaller goals that are achievable are better than longer goals that are amorphous and unachievable or seem gargantuan. Remember, an album's written like one song at a time, so your goal should be, I'm going to finish this song at this time and then this song at this time, not just like, I'm going to write an album. Well, when are you going to finish it? What's it going to be? So the smaller goals tend to be a lot more effective at that. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you'll have a great day. You can find me online at dvspress.com, davidvstewart.com, and zoolonline.com. My next creative thing that's coming out, this is the last one that I came out with, Water of Awakening. You can find out more about this book at dvspress.com, along with my other books. Some of them are free. This one's actually free, and this little fairy tale, which is actually child appropriate, free on Amazon and basically everywhere else as well. And Muramasa Blood Drinker, my samurai fiction novel. You can find out about that stuff at dvspress.com. My next creative project is my album under the name Zool, Z-U-L. That'll come out October 31st on Halloween. And pretty much all major digital distributors. If you'd like a physical copy, they'll be available in a couple places. Best place to get them if you want them signed is at my Bandcamp page, zoolonline.bandcamp.com. And that's my preferred place if you want to pre-order the digital album as well, because you'll get it in 24-bit, not just the 16-bit that I have to encode for all the other sites. So you get a better version. You get FLAC files if you want them, WAV files if you want them, and in 24-bit. The higher resolution does sound better than CDs, and I noticed the difference, so maybe you will too. And thank you guys for watching. You guys have a great day.